In this session, we're going to be talking about scheduling contests. We're going to talk about some of the considerations that an athletic administrator has to take into account when scheduling a contest. We're going to identify special management concerns such as transportation, officials, and contest control, and other issues that we must take into account. Two factors will determine how you schedule: the philosophy and facilities of that district, the allowable distance for travel. Is their philosophy to keep you within a 25-mile radius? A lot of districts have that. The number of levels and gender of the sport that they offer. Some districts have 2 levels, some have 3. So that is definitely going to affect how you schedule. You can't schedule, if you have 3 boys and 3 girls basketball teams in one gym, you can't schedule them all on the same day. So you're going to have to mirror that. So that's always going to have an effect on how you schedule. Also in preseason, if you schedule the boys at home and you don't schedule the girls away, that's going to knock somebody out of a practice day. So that's always a consideration. The facilities are going to determine a lot of how you schedule. Like I said, if we have one gym and 6 levels, that's going to determine how we schedule. That's going to have an effect. The time of day. Does your district frown on students leaving class early to go to a contest? And there again, you got to take into consideration the distance for travel and how long it takes, and the freeways nowadays. So all of that comes into play. And it may even include practices. If you have 6 levels, one gym again, how do you get them all in there to practice and make it fair? So can they go late at night, or can they go before school in the morning? And the philosophy of the district is going to come into play here. They may want you out of the gym at say 8:30 so that the custodians can come in and clean it, because they have to leave say by 9 o'clock at night according to contract. So those are some things you need to take into consideration when scheduling. The number of contests. Does your district have a limit on the number of contests, let's say for lower levels, in order to save money on officials or transportation? They may or may not. Furlough days. That's something new that we've had to deal with lately because of the cutbacks from the state. We can't schedule on furlough days because we don't have custodial or grounds help or supervision. So for some sports that require that, we just can't schedule on those days. And transportation is tough when there's no one to drive the bus. So that now plays a consideration in how we schedule as well. Holidays, kind of the same thing, except you can pay overtime. So if you want to pay the money for that custodian to come in and clean those bathrooms and open up, you're going to be paying a little bit more if it's a tournament. So those are things to consider. You want to schedule on a holiday, and if so, be prepared to pay the extra money. The other factor is the conference or league requirements for the number of games. That will definitely make an effect, or have an effect on how you schedule. And some of that is done automatically, and it's done through the league. When I first became an athletic director, everything was done by hand. We scheduled in a book on a calendar with a pencil because we erased it a lot. Then we had to mail out contracts to each school with mail, not email, not fax, but mail. And we had carbon copy contracts. Everything was done very slowly. And you were on the phone an awful lot, and it was really hard to get a hold of people because other athletic directors are not always available at the time you are. So it was really slow scheduling. Now there's a platform called ScheduleStar. Most athletic directors use ScheduleStar in California and even throughout the nation. There's some movement now where CIF, California Interscholastic Federation, is kind of making a movement to move to what they call Home Campus. It's a CIF related website which will do the scheduling, but until that takes effect, and that may happen in the next year or two, ScheduleStar is the way most athletic directors schedule. It's the #1 athletic management program. It saves you time and puts all your information in one place online. And you can easily communicate with parents and fans using highschoolsports.net, which is connected to it. That's a site where parents and fans can go. They can't change your schedule, or you know, they don't have access to that portion of it, but they can see instantaneously where the game is, what time the bus leaves, and anything else they want to find out. They can even get directions to the school. So it's really a great way to communicate with your parents. And any details you enter into ScheduleStar instantly update to highschoolsports.net. Another great thing about ScheduleStar, it has a mobile app which allows athletic directors to schedule while you're out of the office, or quickly check and see if a bus is late, what time it's scheduled. I don't know how many times I use that, and it's fantastic. It goes right to your iPhone instantaneously, and there's nothing like it. ScheduleStar also allows you to generate rosters with information, contact information. So if you want to send home a letter, you can print labels quickly. It's got all the information. All the student body is imported into ScheduleStar, into your ScheduleStar. You can print schedules quickly. You can send a transportation report with just a click of a mouse to your transportation department, so you don't have to write anything out like we used to. Everything had to be written, and there were changes. Naturally, if it rains or if you change a game time, whatever, you had to do it all over again. It was very, very slow. Now it's instantaneous. Everybody communicates. You can also send your official request at the click of a mouse. So when you need to order officials, you print it off, you click it, and it goes to the official assigner, and they have your request right there instantaneously. It's fantastic. It really is. I sound like a salesman for ScheduleStar. I'm not, but it's just fantastic. As I said a minute ago, it actually contains the entire student body with contact information. So if I need to get a hold of any student, I have it on my phone. It's downloaded in with that app. It's fantastic. So again, you can get sporting events on there, practice times, so parents can see all this. School events, you can put the prom on there, whatever school event you want. Personal events, which I don't do, and any other event you may think of. So we have evolved to this online scheduling, which is just fantastic. If you're an athletic director today, it's really a good thing. I mean, we have a lot of technology. Sometimes the technology gets in the way, but for the most part, it's very helpful. Game management is a big part of scheduling, because when you schedule, you just don't schedule the game itself or the meet. You have to think about who's going to supervise. You need supervision at school events, whether it be your own staff, teachers working supervision, or your security, your on-campus security, or police. For some events, we have all three. For football games, we have staff, we have our own security, and in most cases, we have a policeman or two, or sometimes more, if it's a rival that we're playing and we anticipate maybe some problems. Those are all things to consider, and some of those things are very expensive, so supervision is a big part of game management. The clock, a lot of contests require a timer, a clock person, and it's usually an adult that has to be on the clock, whether it's water polo, basketball, soccer, football. You have to have people on the clock that are responsible, and in some situations it's two. The shot clock in basketball and the regular clock. You also have to have somebody working the gate if you're selling tickets. That has to be an adult because they're handling money, and you have to pay that person as well. So that's another consideration in scheduling. Announcer, if it's a game that requires an announcer, such as football, basketball, and some others, again, it's usually an adult and it's usually a paid position. Doctor, that's usually for football, and you don't need a doctor on the sidelines. It's recommended that you have either a trainer, a doctor, or an ambulance. We have two. We have a doctor and we have a trainer on the sidelines. I used to have an ambulance, but we found out that those that sit there in the ambulance cannot transport. So it was really a waste of our money because we'd have to call 911 and get them over there to transport. So a doctor or a trainer you need on the sidelines for football, not the other sports. Security, I think I mentioned that earlier. That's something to think about too. It depends on the contest. Usually it's football and basketball. The other sports, unless there's a rival game or it's something that we're anticipating a problem, we won't get security because it costs money. And one last thing to consider are furlough days and holidays. Are we going to have staff available? So, and another thing to consider is test dates. At the end of school, there's a lot of testing going on. So when you're scheduling an away game, something to think about, or even a home game for that matter. Scheduling transportation for away games. Departure time is a big thing to take into consideration because you don't want to take students out of class too early and too often. So you want to keep that in mind when you're scheduling. Sometimes you have to leave early, but you want to keep it to a minimum, and you definitely want to notify teachers. So again, by using ScheduleStar or whatever platform, you can simply send a schedule to all the teachers on a Monday to let them know that these particular teams will be leaving early and to please excuse these students. So again, ScheduleStar is great for that. Drop and return, what that means is a bus might drop off a team and then return to do their home to school route, maybe for the elementary schools, and then return to pick up that team. So it's always good to let the coach know if that's going to be the case. Scheduling to double up sports. In other words, if you have two teams going to the same location and you can fit them all on a bus, that might be a way to save money and use one bus instead of two, or schedule that way. A van. For some teams like our golf team, they can use a van. Here you've got to get the instructor cleared to drive. They need a DMV report and a copy of their insurance, and that all needs to be turned into risk management early enough to get cleared. That usually takes about 3 weeks, so you need to plan ahead when you're doing that, and that definitely saves money. Sometimes we use private cars. We really don't want to do that, and we only do it during weekends and holidays, and that's cleared through our district. Every district is different here, so you need to make sure you find out what the philosophy is of your district. If parents are driving, they still, especially if they're driving other students, they have to have forms filled out and on file with risk management release forms. Younger student athletes usually don't drive, so if somebody else is taking them, they need to be cleared to prevent the district from being sued, or from the parents from being sued if there's an accident. So we want to make sure we cover that. Each district has their own protocol for that, so I suggest you find that out. That's very important. I would not by any means drive any students in your private car unless you are cleared to do so. And every district has their own requirements for that. So be careful with that. Again, I don't recommend any coaches driving students in their own private cars. Anytime you host a contest, you are responsible for requesting officials. What I normally do is in May of each year, I send the request for that particular sport for all home games to that individual assigner. Each sport has a different assigner. Basketball has theirs, usually does both genders, boys and girls, and soccer, same thing. So it's usually done by sport. It doesn't matter on the gender usually. And the majority of the assigners use what they call the Arbiter. It's an online site, and you can go to it any time as an athletic director and double check and see who the officials are. It's got their contact information up there. So what I like to do is go to that site, and I'll actually print off the entire season and double check it to make sure that I've ordered officials for all the home contests. And I will give that list of officials sometimes to the individual coach so he or she can see who those officials are going to be. Some coaches like to know who they are. And what I do suggest is that you develop a contact list for all the assigners. Have a single sheet of paper with all their contact information, email, home phone, cell phone, because things will change. I guarantee it. Things will always change, whether it be rain, some kind of situation that you have to change or reschedule a game, move a time. You will need that list handy. I keep it right next to me on the desk just in case I have to make a quick call. And I tell you, the assigners for all sports are just great as far as handling changes or mistakes. It's really important that you develop a good relationship with them because you will need it. Scheduling the maintenance of athletic facilities. That can be kind of tricky. Facilities serve multiple sports, and nowadays they're pretty much used year-round with the new rule that CIF did away with, the association rule. They pretty much now allow coaches to coach their athletes year-round. So, for example, the gym, we try to close it for 1 week in December to get the floor refinished, and again in August when there's a dead month. August is a dead month for pretty much all sports. The pool, really we do the major repairs. We try to in August, but usually there's a lot of unforeseen things that happen throughout the year, such as a heater going down or a filter going out, but we try to do all major repairs in August. The stadium, we have an all-turf or a turf field and an all-weather track, so we really don't shut that down anymore. We used to when it was grass, but now we pretty much use it year-round, except for August when that dead month is in effect. The grass fields, those fields, we shut them down in August, and we limit their use to outside organizations throughout the year. And we have absolutely nobody on them on Sundays. No outside organizations can schedule grass fields on Sundays because they need a rest. They need a rest to grow. And we try to get them renovated right before that particular sports season, although it's hard because there's a lot of overlap with soccer and football and softball. But you try to get a window of time where everybody's available, grounds is available to do some renovation on it, and we pretty much work around their schedule. The weight room, again, we have that on a cleaning basis. It's a beautiful room, and we try to get that room cleaned once a week and put it on a schedule there. So your facilities need to be kept up, and you need to develop a time in which they can do it, and it's kind of tricky working around all sports.